Poker isn't just a game of cards, it's a language of risk, and the first word in that language is usually the ante. Before a single card is even touched, that small forced bet ensures there's something to fight for, setting the stage for everything that follows. It's the baseline of the economy in a game like Texas Hold'em, but it's only the beginning of a complex system of forced action designed to prevent everyone from just sitting on their hands waiting for pocket aces.
That's such a fundamental point. If there weren't these forced bets, the antes and the blinds, there would be no reason to play anything but the absolute best hands. You'd just wait forever. The blinds, specifically the small blind and big blind, are fascinating because they create a permanent tension. They sit to the immediate left of the dealer button and they have to put money in blindly, meaning without seeing their cards. According to historians, the concept of blinds became more standardized as community card games like Hold'em grew, essentially replacing the older ante-only systems to force even more action.
The dealer button itself is where the real power dynamic shifts, though. It's marked by that physical disc, but strategically, it's a massive information advantage. Being on the button means you're the last to act in almost every round. You get to watch how everyone else bets, checks, or folds before you have to commit a single chip. It feels like the entire table is built around that one moving seat.
It really is. In fact, professional players often look at their profitability by position, and the button is almost always the most lucrative spot. On the flip side, you have the most difficult seat, under the gun, or UTG. This is the player immediately to the left of the big blind. The term itself is perfect. It's a high-pressure spot because you have to act first pre-flop. You have zero information. You don't know if the person behind you has a monster hand or if the button is planning a big bluff. Because of that, most strategy guides, like those from poker coaching, suggest your opening range, the set of hands you're willing to play, should be incredibly narrow when you're under the gun.
So if you're UTG, you're basically looking for those premium hands, like a pocket pair, 2 cards of the same rank. But even with a strong starting hand, you still have to navigate the actual betting rounds, checking, calling, raising, or folding. Checking seems like the safest move, just passing the action, but it can only happen if nobody has bet yet. Once a bet is on the table, the check is off the table, right?
Exactly. Once someone bets, your options narrow to calling, matching their bet, raising, or folding. Folding is the hardest lesson for many new players. It's the act of throwing away your hand and forfeiting the pot. People hate wasting the money they already put in, but professional play is often defined by the hands you don't play. Then there's the ultimate move, the all-in. It's exactly what it sounds like, wagering every last chip you have. It's the ultimate leverage tool because it forces your opponent into a massive decision where they risk their entire tournament life or stack.
That's the high drama stuff, but for the regular hands, people are usually chasing something, which brings us to the draw. You might not have a great hand yet, but you're looking for that one card to complete it. An open-ended straight draw is a classic example. You have 4 cards in a row and just need a card on either end to finish the sequence. Or a flush draw, where you have 4 cards of the same suit and are hunting for that 5th one.
Draws are where the math really enters the room. You have to understand outs, the specific cards left in the deck that will improve your hand. If you have a flush draw, you usually have 9 outs. There's a handy rule of 2 and 4 used by players to estimate their chances. If you have 2 cards to come, you multiply your outs by 4. So 9 outs times 4 is about a 36% chance of hitting. If there's only 1 card left to come, you multiply by 2, roughly an 18% chance.
And that leads directly into pot odds, which I think is where a lot of people get confused. It's not just about the percentage chance of winning, it's about comparing that chance to the price of the call. If the pot has $100 in it and your opponent bets 50, the pot is now 150. It costs you 50 to call. You're essentially paying 50 to try and win 200, the original 100 plus their 50 plus your 50. That's a ratio of 4 to 1, or 25%. If your hand has a better than 25% chance of winning, the math says you must call.
That's what we call expected value, or EV. A play that is plus EV means that if you made that same move 1,000 times, you'd end up with a profit. It doesn't mean you'll win this specific hand. You could have a 70% chance to win and still lose the pot. That's the variance of poker. The key is making decisions that are mathematically sound in the long run. If you constantly make EV calls just because you feel like a lucky card is coming, you're eventually going to go broke.
That feeling is actually the enemy, isn't it? It leads to tilt. We've all seen it. Someone loses a big hand they should have won, a bad beat, and suddenly they're playing every hand, raising wildly and losing their remaining chips. Research on poker psychology, like studies found on ResearchGate, suggests that tilt is often triggered by a sense of moral indignation, the feeling that the loss was unfair or that the money is rightfully theirs. It's an emotional hijack that shuts down the rational part of the brain.
It's a silent bankroll killer. Tilted players expand their range, the group of hands they're willing to play, far beyond what is profitable. Instead of thinking about what their opponent might have, they're thinking about getting their money back. Skilled players don't put an opponent on one specific hand. They assign them a range. They look at the position, the betting history, and the board texture to say, okay, this player would play about 15% of their hands this way. Then they play against that entire range of possibilities.
It sounds like a giant puzzle where the pieces keep changing. You have the nuts, the absolute best possible hand at that moment, which is unbeatable. But most of the time you're dealing with shades of gray. You're using bluffs to convince people you have the nuts, or a semi-bluff where you bet with a draw. If they fold, you win immediately. If they call, you still have the potential to hit your draw and win anyway. It's about creating multiple ways to win a single pot.
And that's the beauty of it. It's a game of incomplete information. You're taking these terms, blinds, buttons, ranges, and EV, and using them to navigate uncertainty. The terminology isn't just jargon, it's a toolkit for making better decisions under pressure. Whether you're trying to avoid tilt after a bad beat or calculating your pot odds on a flush draw, these concepts are what separate someone who is gambling from someone who is playing a game of skill.
It's really about shifting the focus from the outcome of one hand to the quality of the decision itself. If you made the right call based on the math and the position, you've already won, regardless of which card the dealer flips over. That's a hard mindset to maintain when the chips are moving away from you, but it's the only way to survive the game over the long haul. Understanding these basics is really the only path toward turning poker from a game of chance into a game of strategy.
It truly is. From the very first ante to the final river card, every term we've discussed today represents a layer of strategy that has evolved over centuries. What started as a cheating game on Mississippi riverboats has become a highly studied mathematical discipline. But at its heart, it still comes down to that interaction between two people across a table, trying to figure out who has the better range and who can handle the pressure.
It's a lot to take in, but once you start seeing the game through these concepts, the chaos of the cards starts to look a lot more like a structured debate. If you found this breakdown helpful for your next game, pass it along to someone who might be tired of relying on luck alone.